Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. It's your boy TNL, and today we'll be talking about how you can live a story worth telling. So, one day somebody's gonna talk about you in the past tense. They'll say your name and a few moments that can come to the mind. Whether it's at your funeral, whether it's just any time past that. How you lived, how you treated people, what kind of energy that you carried, they'll kind of, talk about these things. And that's it. That'll be your story. But most people never think about that until it's too late. They kind of drift through life chasing comfort, chasing distractions. And when it's all said and done, their story is just kind of average, if that makes sense. Not even average, but it just wasn't to the point it could have been. So let's talk about how to change that and how to live a story worth telling. So everybody has a story, but most never really write theirs. They're not really the author. The truth is, everyone has a story, but most people will let somebody else write it for them. Your parents, your friends, your boss, just society just society in total. They hand you a script, go to school, get a job, play it safe, fit in. And for a while, it kind of feels right. It kind of feels normal. But until one day you just wake up and you realize that you've been living by default and not by design. You've been kind of acting in somebody else's movie, if that makes sense, instead of directing your own. The first step of living a story that's worth telling is realizing that you're the author. You watching this video right now, you are the author of your own story. And nobody's going to hand you a script that makes your life meaningful. You have to write it yourself. And most people are too scared to pick up the pen, which is all too true, which is sad. But stories, at times, they need conflict. Stories need conflict. Every story worth remembering has a little bit of struggle in it. Think about it. Every hero, every great story, every comeback, it starts with pain. It starts with them going through something troubling, something traumatic. But most people spend their lives avoiding that type of pain. They want the comfort. They want their snuggly blanket. They want ease. They don't want effort. But what makes a story powerful isn't how easy it is. It's about how hard it is and how hard it was and how you pushed through it anyway, regardless of what was thrown at you. You can't skip the hard parts. That's kind of the plot, It's what makes, it's like the part of your life that gives you meaning. It's the part of life that gives you meaning. When you start seeing your challenges as like chapters instead of like curses towards you, you start realizing you're not failing, but you're becoming something. You're becoming a great individual. So every choice is a sentence in your own story. Think about it like this. Every day you're writing your own story with small choices. You wake up, you may hit the snooze button. That's a line in your story. That's a sentence in your story. When you choose comfort over growth, that's another line. You choose to, go spend your money on fast food when you could have got groceries and made it cheaper. When you choose to go and do drugs with your friends, and simply accomplish nothing. Even though you accomplish having a good memory, but is it really a good memory if you're all just deteriorating? You know what I mean? Like when you keep a promise to yourself, that's the plot twist. You know what I mean? Like when you make a promise to yourself to go to the gym, that's a line that you want in your story. When you make a promise to help your grandma, take her somewhere she needs to, that's a line. It's all good things that add up. The smallest decisions shape the biggest stories in our lives. The habits you build, the risks you take, the people you choose to keep around, they all become paragraphs in your life, big chunks that really define you. The problem is most people realize this when they've hit the rock bottom part of it. That's when they finally go, man, I should have been writing something this whole time, or I should have been doing this, I should have been doing that, etc. So don't wait for a crisis to strike your life. You know, maybe somebody gets diagnosed with something. Don't wait for a crisis. You know, maybe you get diagnosed with something. Let me be more specific. Start being intentional now. You know, make every choice mean something to you. Make every choice mean something to everyone. You know, stories. Let me say this: stories aren't perfect. They're very honest. You don't need to have it all figured out. Let me say that again. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to have a perfect life. You just need to live an honest one. You know, the best stories aren't about flawless people. Nobody is really truly flawless. It's about the real ones. You know what I mean? The best stories are always about the real ones. You know, the ones who fell, the ones who learned, the ones who came back stronger and were able to do good. Your flaws, your failures, your regrets, they're not the end of your story. They're just there for character development. So just stop trying to be impressive 24/7. Start trying to be more real, more yourself. Because real is what people can connect to. And real is what will make your story worth telling to other people. Because you were such a hard worker. You were such a stand-up guy. You were such a funny guy. You know, it's as simple as that. You gotta make your story about something bigger than you, bigger than yourself, bigger than everything. You want to live a story that truly matters. You gotta make it more than just about yourself. Most people's stories can just die with them, because they've never impacted anyone else. You know, but the moment you use your pain to help someone else, the moment your growth inspires another person, your story becomes immortal. Think about it. Think about the people who changed your life. Think about how they probably didn't even know how much their story meant to you, but their courage gave you permission to start your own and to grow. I'll use an example. I was working at a grocery store. And this guy came through my line and he looked at me dead in my eyes. He's an older guy. And he was like, I don't know what it is, but I see something in you. You know, like whatever you're going through or whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You're gonna succeed. He kind of just liked the vibe that I had to me. I try to keep a smile on whenever I'm working. Definitely hard at times, but you try to push through whatever you can. But when he told me that, it made me feel like this guy doesn't know me, but he can kind of just see what I am for what I am, you know, and that made me feel good. And him telling me that made me want to even try it even harder, you know, and it's a random guy, somebody I've never met before, and I'll still see him to this day. It's just kind of like a ripple effect, and it just starts the moment you decide your life won't just be about you. Picture this though, 10 years from now, you've built yourself up, you've chased what scared you, and you finally took control, and you yourself watching this, you know what those things are. And if you don't, you'll find out. You wake up one morning in a place you chose, not the one you settled for. You're surrounded by people you actually love being around. Your work means something. Your story feels like yours. You're not running from your past anymore. You're building it. You're building from it. The version of you is already possible. They're just waiting for you to stop procrastinating on your own story. Stop living in somebody else's script. Stop letting fear edit your chapters. You know what I mean? Like, it's the legacy in question is what I like to think about a lot. You know, when you're gone, what's left behind? You know, not your car, not your followers, not your bank account, your energy, your story, like the people who were changed because you simply existed. You know, your existence is, I don't know I don't know what the exact chances of you actually existing, but they're slim to none, honestly. You're more likely to probably win the lottery than you are to simply exist in life. And that's just legacy, you know, it's not built in some big moment. It's built daily. And every time you choose integrity over convenience, every time you choose honesty, honesty over comfort, and every time you choose growth over fear, that's what makes people remember you. Not for what you had, but like for who you were, how you spent your time on planet Earth, you know? So you might ask me, how do you start writing your story now? If you're feeling lost today, it's perfectly fine, because it's a lot of crazy things going on, and it's okay. That's how every great story starts, you know? You don't need to know your whole entire plot from this point forward. You just kind of need to take the right step in the right direction every day, every sentence, you know, every sentence of your day. Can you make it better than the last? Can you make better paragraphs? Can you make better essays of your life? Start by doing one thing your future self will thank you for. You know, start saying no to something that drains you. Start saying yes to something that scares you. Forgive someone. Forgive yourself. Do something that makes your life mean something. You don't necessarily have to be special. You just have to be intentional with how you want to do things. So here's the truth. You're writing your story right now, every day, every decision, every reaction. And the question isn't whether you'll have a story. It's kind of whether you'll have a story that's worth telling. And if you want it to be, then stop waiting for inspiration. Start building momentum, and start living deliberately. Start doing things that future you will like to talk about, you know, and will be proud about. Because one day when your name gets brought up, you'll want people to say, that person did it. That person lived. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. It's TNL. Subscribe, comment, like, and I love y'all.